An escalation that repeats the incident yesterday.
Okay, Neda Taufik for us there on the ground in Minneapolis. Now to another story. Venezuela's interim government says it is releasing prisoners who human rights groups say are political detainees. It fulfills a key demand from the US after it seized President Nicolás Maduro last weekend. Spain has confirmed that 5 Spanish citizens have now been released. In Washington, 5 US Senate Republicans joined with Democrats to advance a resolution to block further military action in Venezuela without congressional authorization. That is to hold a vote on that matter next week. The vote represents the strongest pushback yet to the Trump administration's actions in Venezuela from within his own party. Well, after that procedural vote, Republican Senator Todd Young said in a statement, the president and members of his team have stated that the US now runs Venezuela. It's unclear if that means that an American military presence will be required to stabilize the country. I am not prepared to commit American troops to that mission, he says. The vote comes after US President Trump told the New York Times that the US oversight of Venezuela could last for years, and he reiterated that the interim Venezuelan government is cooperating with the US. Well, we're joined now by Democratic Congresswoman Sara Jacobs. She serves on the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us here on BBC News. Now, you were one of the individuals who received a behind closed doors briefing on that this week. To the point we've just mentioned there about the US role from here out, are you any the wiser as to what that will be?
I'll be honest, we came away from this classified briefing with very little information about what the actual plan is moving forward, what it actually means when President Trump says that we're going to run Venezuela. We did not get any clarity on what it means that we're running the oil industry in Venezuela and where and how that money will be going. Or what money they're even using to pay for the operation in Venezuela to begin with. So I have a lot of concerns about the fact that this was very clearly an imperialistic, illegal regime change while actually keeping the regime in place, and that they clearly have not learned any of the lessons from Iraq and Libya and other places about, making sure there's a day after plan.
Now, we saw that procedural vote pass through the Senate today to allow for a debate on trying to limit the president's powers in terms of Venezuela. Still has to get through the Senate and move to yourselves in the House. What is the likelihood of that? What is the level of resistance or disappointment within the Republican Party, do you think?
I'm really glad that today House Democrats introduced a war powers resolution that would do similar to what the Senate war powers resolution does. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to vote on it as soon as possible. I've talked to many of my Republican colleagues who privately will say that they're, unhappy with how this went down, with the lack of notification to Congress, with the fact that this is not congressionally approved. But they, for the past year, have often said these things behind closed doors. And the question is, will they have the courage to do that? We did have 4 Republicans vote with us before the regime change happened in Venezuela for this war power. So I'm hoping we'll get even more when it does come up for a vote. But, I'll be honest, I thought MAGA was supposed to be about America first. And this Venezuela operation is not America first. This is doing nothing to actually address the very real needs the American people have, right? It doesn't fix healthcare. It doesn't fix our cost of living crisis, but it also doesn't even address the drug crisis, which is ostensibly what the president says he's doing this for. Fentanyl does not come from Venezuela. Even the indictment of Maduro is only about cocaine. And then he just pardoned a very similar crime by a previous Honduran leader. So this is really about Donald Trump and his desire to get power and oil.
And Congresswoman, I just want to ask you about a domestic matter, because we've seen all day long protests in Minneapolis following on from the killing of a woman there, following on from an immigration enforcement operation. Obviously, there's to be an investigation. But what's your view of what we saw yesterday and what we're seeing now today?
That video was appalling to me. What I saw was ICE agents kill in cold blood a suburban mom who literally had stuffed animals in her glove compartment. ICE does not have the same authorities as local law enforcement, so they are not actually supposed to be stopping people. They are only supposed to be doing immigration enforcement, and this woman was a United States citizen. And, I think what's even more scary is the fact that this administration not only has no interest in holding the ICE agent who committed this murder accountable, they're laughing about it. They're trying to gaslight us when it's very clear. There's lots and lots of video footage that shows exactly what happened. And that's why we're going to do everything we can to try and hold ICE accountable, to constrain as much as we can what this administration can do, because this is what a police state looks like.
And just on that point, we heard today from the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension that it won't be involved in the investigation now, that jurisdiction has been moved to a federal level. There won't be a local or state involvement. Would you be appealing for that to be reversed, that there would be a local involvement?
Absolutely. Local law enforcement should have the ability to investigate this crime, this murder that happened. And if DHS is so convinced that their telling of account is what happened, then they should welcome an investigation, because the evidence would show that.
Okay. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go to Caracas in Venezuela now. We can speak live to BBC Mundo journalist Norberto Paredes.